It's still TV3 New Day. Thanks, as always, for choosing us. Now, we're about to get into a conversation that I know concerns you, even if you're not a celebrity or a public figure. We experience them everywhere, on TV, on radio, and these days on social media. We experience them on a daily basis. Some people have become gods in our eyes, most often do inappropriate things that we do not even chastise or even talk about, and that's what we are getting into this morning. We want to get into the minds of these celebs or these public figures to understand exactly what happens to them when they taste fame. So this morning, we want to talk about the drug of fame. Oftentimes, and I'm sure you've heard, that when people become famous or when people become public figures or celebrities, their friends and family and people around them will always say that they have changed. And I'm sure that you have oftentimes heard that. Now, the engineer of hip life, Grandpapa Reggie Rockstone, who started this business of hip life all the way in 1994, has tasted fame all this while. And he came out with a video some time back that I want you to look at, and then we'll get into the discussion this morning. Let's take a look at what Grandpapa Reggie Rockstone had to say about fame.
I want to talk about this drug today and tell you how deadly this drug is. I've been around this drug. I know this drug very well. I'm blessed, or should I say was blessed, to not be a part of this story when it comes to this drug, but I need you to really understand this drug. And this is a drug that I'm talking about a drug called fame. You heard me. Fame. That's the name of the drug that I speak about. Deadly. I seen fame do a lot. I seen what crack do to folks. I seen heroin. I seen, all kinds. Fame. That's all there. Fame will have you do all kinds of shit. And you seen what fame do. I know you seen it. And just like drugs, when somebody's a junkie, addict, you'll have people who enable a junkie. Sometimes it's parents, because you feel bad, your son or your daughter's in pain. They need a hit. There's no difference with fame. We enable folks. And we watch them on television, we hear them on radio, and we can see them up. We can see them steady declining, but we still giving them that buzz. Fame is a drug. When you hail folks and you telling them how dope they are, regardless of whatever, what you are doing is you are enabling this drug to work. His addiction, her addiction is what you are enabling. So drugs, not the regular. I'm talking about fame. Oh, guess what? I've been around this drug. Quote unquote, I'm kind of famous. But I knew about this drug very, very early. That's why I'm here today, drug-free.
Right. Now, he indeed is famous Reginald Yao Asante Osei, a.k.a. Grandpapa Reggie Rockstone. And I'm sure everyone out there can attest to the fact that he's got a good head on his shoulders, even after tasting the drug of fame. Now, some research conducted shows that fame changes a person's life forever, and it is felt more as an impact or overnight experience rather than a gradual transition. Now, becoming a celebrity alters the person's being in the world. Once fame hits, with its growing sense of isolation, mistrust, and lack of personal privacy, the person develops a kind of character splitting between the celebrity self and the authentic self as a survival technique in the world. And we want to find out this morning from Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur, who has joined us on Zoom, if this piece of research is anything to go by. Do I still have Doc on Zoom? Okay. All right. So my directors are helping me reestablish contact. Oh, okay. So Grandpapa Reggie Rockstone himself is on Zoom this morning. Hi, Grandpapa. Good morning.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Looking
Great.
good in red.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. We know that you had to
You're
sacrifice.
welcome.
You had to sacrifice for us this morning. Yeah, that's a pa nyami show.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, we just watched a snippet of that video of yours titled "The Drug of Fame." You remember that video you put out some time, right?
Yeah, a drug called fame.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Watching back, my submission sounded so dramatic. Even I was scared. Yeah, but you know, I went to acting school, so.
Yeah. So sometimes it comes to play, right? It just comes out. Yeah, the characterization comes out. Anyway, why did you feel the importance to talk about the drug of fame when you did?
Just like I had said in the beginning of my submission, it's just something that I have been around. I'm blessed to have known the repercussions of this drug called fame.
Right.
I was very popular from a very, very, very early age. I was a child star. People seem to forget this. My father was very popular. Ricky Santosay, the fashion designer.
Right.
Grew up in a very eclectic home, free. And so being the only child, I experienced this very early in my life. And I have seen what it does to people. I have seen people move from regular, humble, rational thinking people to some crazy, egotistical, I mean, and so, yeah.
Okay.
And social media, say me time no crowd there. Not social media anymore.
Aye.
So everything that I have known about this drug called fame has been like magnified today. You know, man, shit TV out. Even regular folks who really don't have no talent or nothing, they get the fame bug. People will do any old thing to quote unquote, I hate using that word, trend. That's the fame bug.
Right.
Social media. The peer pressure on these kids is ridiculous, you know. And so the drug has become so legalized and so accepted now that half of the world is on this drug. What they call your 15 minutes of fame. Yep. That's just that emotional crack cocaine.
Right.
15 minutes of fame.
But then what is it about being famous that everyone wants to have a taste of? When you're famous, don't you breathe the same air? Don't you drink the same water? Do you walk on cloud nine? I want to understand what type of high comes with being famous? Don't you feel like a human being?
Well, this is what the drug does. It gives you a false sense of reality. That's what fame does. It'll make you feel that you don't do all of the above that you mentioned.
Right.
Just that, oh yeah, now your body are not man for a bomb himself.
Right.
You are surrounded with a whole bunch of yes men.
Right.
Out there. Traffic mukra you can't free on my over. Smoke and mirrors. And if you check out the effects of fame, you will also realize that the same folks who enable your drug habit, which is the fame, will turn on you just like the drug dealer.
True.
And that wouldn't mean triaka. So you know that when I equate fame to a drug, the analysis is almost perfect, right?
Exactly.
I can even talk about it without you knowing that I'm talking about fame.
Right.
And the drugs is almost the same.
Exactly.
And and they turn on you.
Okay.
And then my scandal be a Nazi people who claim they love you, never seen you before, will be cussing you, your mama, and everybody that knows you.
Well, Dr. Newman has joined us. I'm about to throw a question to him, but let me throw it to you first. Normally, say yes, or when it's purported that the person has changed, as a or money honso a hand time kakra I want to understand, because you have been there. Sana nipanitia dada ena say fame no kakra e money heighten, or it's the fame that actually alters their ego, their character, and everything else.
That's a really good question there.
Thank you.
Usually, I wouldn't say usually, most human beings have an ego department.
Okay.
Your boy is saying, what's the matter? It's kind of natural with the human being. But if you they were already insecure. There's something deep rooted in them that they never had. Right. So this insecurity, I mean, I'm not going to mention no names, but you could look around you. It comes from an insecurity. What do I say?
Right.
But then the drug will allow you that little BS space, you know, and this is what happens. And I watch them on TV and I think to myself, at that, Papa, we are not so bad. We fame me back for where you're gonna need therapy.
Right. Because
just like drugs, you're going to have the cold turkey, the after, you know, when you don't have it no more.
Right.
And guess what? One day, like joke, you know, go be famous.
Okay.
And money is dangerous. Yeah.
But
and they want to stick, they want to stay on this high.
Right.
But then, of course, you made a good point. Some people are grounded. But sadly, no. If you wanted to, they were senior to.
Right.
What's my say? I collect me fame bug now. Collect me at the show.
Right.
Yeah, man, the fans can offer one man there be or say a show. Said there be Ubia, as my cousin Sydney sang. Obi and Obia.
Okay.
Humble yourself.
All right.
Yes.
Grandpapa, hold on a second for me. Let's engage the doctor that we have on Zoom as well. Dr. Newman Arthur, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Great. Were you listening to Grandpapa? Did you hear his submissions?
I was.
Okay. So let me throw that same question to you. Is there a correlation between a normal person and the type of high they start to feel when they become famous? The question I asked was, is this something that was already innate, something that was already in them that is now being heightened by the drug of fame?
I think that we can't oversimplify issues in terms of, especially when it comes to people's mental health. let me quickly say that psychology is on 3 levels: a person's thinking, a person's feelings, and a person's behavior.
Okay.
And that is psychology. And you would have to realize that anything that is attached to an emotion, it helps people to be able to cope with life situations and makes them feel good about themselves, and sometimes even pursue whatever they want to pursue the way they think they need to pursue what they are pursuing. And so when it comes to anything that has to do with how people think, feel, and behave, we can't oversimplify it. And usually there are multiple reasons why people depend on some things in order for them to make some progress with their lives.
Right.
And so with that said, I would say that generally, fame, let me quickly define in simple terms what fame is. Fame is basically, people achieving a certain status, a high status, because of 3 things: the public appreciation, acknowledgement, and validation of a certain uniqueness or a certain uncommon feat, based on what the public wants.
Okay.
So the public would acknowledge, they would appreciate and validate a person's uniqueness or achievement. So these 2 things, uniqueness and achievement, becomes important. And it is innate, it is innate for us to feel wanted, to feel appreciated, to feel unique, and to feel that whatever we're doing with our lives, the general masses appreciate. Because it also goes beyond the present. We also look at a person's legacy and even stretches into people's eternal perspectives. So sometimes when people want fame or the way they approach fame, it may be based on their appreciation of themselves and their uniqueness,
right,
and also appreciation of their efforts, and also sometimes it has some eternity issues, because when we die we want to be remembered for something. We want to be remembered for something. So behind that behavior is something that can be bigger than just the fame. So I won't say that it was innate or it was there and fame uncovered it, but fame itself, has an impact on a person's life, and also it may be a means of coping with inner needs that has not been met over the years. Because some people, even because of childhood experiences, for example, if a child is underappreciated or overappreciated by parents or significant others, or when a child goes through some kind of traumatic event as a child, maybe bullying and all that, it can also be a reason why they need to validate their own uniqueness. So fame is one of the ways to do that. So I would do this to prove them wrong. Or because they've been on that high for a long time from childhood, they need to maintain that to feel the same way they felt when they were kids. So going beyond, just the fame itself and what we have made it to become, there may be deeper needs and problems going on, and that the fame, and the quest for fame may only be the surface.
Okay, now I want to go back to Grandpapa, but clarify this for me. I'm a woman, so I'll use us or me as an example. When it's time of the month or when a woman is pregnant, hormones are heightened. That's why you crave for things you normally would not crave for. Biologically, when someone becomes a public figure, when somebody becomes famous, is there any organ inside us that probably heightens the adrenaline of feeling very high and mighty? I just want to understand, maybe psychologically, biologically, or anything, are there any organs or anything in our body that actually propels this feeling of being a god on earth?
Generally our feelings are determined by, some chemicals in the body, right? For example, let me give you 3 important chemicals that are released, pleasant chemicals that are released when there's any heightened emotion, right?
Okay.
The first is what we call dopamine. Dopamine is virtually the happiness feeling. Even those who are on drugs realize that dopamine becomes an important, chemical that is released. So dopamine is one of them. The next one is what we call oxytocin. You see, when someone hugs you, right, and you feel good,
right?
That feeling of goodness is determined by a certain chemical we call, oxytocin. Then another one too, which is very, very good and helps with stress and pain and all that, is what we call endorphins.
Okay.
So generally people's emotions, it's a bag of chemicals actually. So the way we feel, that heightened, emotional responses, there are chemicals that are involved. And even when it comes to dopamine and addictions, realize that dopamine becomes an important chemical when it comes to addiction, how people feel and they respond to those drugs here and there. And it's the same with fame. So people get used to that, and it becomes kind of addictive, like he was saying. So that is it.
All right. So when this dopamine, oxytocin, and was it endorphin you mentioned?
Endorphins.
Okay. So when they get lesser and lesser in the body, is that where depression sets in for these public figures and celebrities?
Well, depression has its own chemical changes here and there. Dopamine and all that may also play a role in a way. But when it comes to depression, we also it's also a complex, what do you call it? A complex situation, mental health situation that goes beyond these chemicals. There are other chemicals that may be involved, serotonin and all kinds of other chemicals that may be involved. So we can't just simplify depression with fame. And the depression with fame may come with several things. The stresses around the fame. Because when you're famous, it's stressful. You lose your own personal life. You lose your own activities. You need to be able to do several things to maintain that kind of status. That is stressful. And also anxiety. Anxiety around whether you're going to lose it or not. Public opinion and expectations. And your ability to fulfill those expectations, and the future and what may even come up with the future. So if people are not able to handle their stresses and anxieties well, they may go into depression. There is something also we call existential crisis, where people's existence does not make sense because they really have lost, a sense of purpose, and they do not even understand why they exist, and they are not finding fulfillment in whatever they're doing. See, when you're famous, whatever got you famous, if that same thing, that activity does not bring you some level of fulfillment. For example, someone who is a doctor, probably a neurosurgeon who is fulfilling his own purpose in life, one day he becomes famous. That activity of, being a neurosurgeon was already fulfilling for the person.
Right.
The fame only came along the line, which may not be critical or major to that person. So if the person, whatever the person is engaged in, that is making the person famous, that same thing does not, create a certain level of fulfillment aside the public, regardless of the public opinion, then the person becomes dependent on the fame and not on purpose. And that, creates a certain kind of difference. And when that happens, they can even go into depression. So you may hear that this top guy who has money, has fame, everything, has suddenly committed suicide. Existential crisis may be one of the important factors, and it can lead to depression. So stress, anxiety, existential problems can all lead to depression if the person's coping strategies around those things is ineffective. So you may have anxiety, you may have stress, you may have some existential problems, but if your coping strategies and the support systems around you is effective, then you're able to handle those things properly. And you're generally fine.
Okay.
Because yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Newman. Let me go back to Grandpapa. Grandpapa, can you hear me? Are you still on?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier when you started your submission, say you tasted fame at a very early age when most of us were not even there. Now, most of us got to know you from 1994 when this whole hip life movement started, and you're still here. I mentioned even before you came on that you're a clear example of being famous and still having a good head on your shoulders. How have you done it, number one? And number two, what advice do you have for the upcoming ones? Because I remember earlier when you mentioned, said people are doing all sorts of things and going all sorts of places just to become famous, or for just some 15 minutes, 10 minutes fame time on Instagram, on social media, and then we start to call them celebrities. How have you done it, and what's your advice for the young ones coming up?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to big up Dr. Newman. The way you broke it down, that's, I've always wanted to say that way, but I did mine poetically with the drug, but he just summed it all up. And that was very, very interesting, Listen, at here for Semutia, may come a night but menstrual. Sankoman can you pay and what's the matter?
Right.
the way I managed, how I came to where I am, it's my parenting. My papa, Ricky, was one of the most humblest human beings. It's yet to I mean, if you check out my storyline, you always realize that I seem to find more joy in helping other people.
Right.
And you're no cry, me no. And I always downplayed the whole star thing because I've always been aware of this famed drug. And so this is how I manage mine. And like he said, a sense of purpose. I have a beautiful family. What people say I am, my papa say, I'm sorry. You know, so what I do is I try to keep myself human.
Okay.
I don't think I am who they say I am. Oh, you like my music? That's it. I will shake 1,000 hands myself. Never had a bodyguard per se. Go everywhere. Listen, I almost deliberately downplayed my fame. Is how I managed it.
Okay.
I will take taxi, everything. Sana me
Oh yeah, no normal. One man coach him.
Debbie, some guy, me started can't say when you know.
Right.
Me bibi niba, send him a tea no
Me to me
yes sada. Send sada usubai na manabasa iti jai kasa. You know, I've been addressed this. And so what I do, me temekona. I'm human. I am Reggie Rockstone, yes, but I was always here.
Right.
A child who was born just like I sucked on my mama titty, just like everybody else. I mean, I go to the bathroom like you do, and this is what it is. Right. So I am more interested in human beings, you know, than and this kept me grounded, and this is how I have maintained.
Okay.
And if you also notice, it has kept me relevant. Without me even trying. I'm just being myself. I'm just being myself. Yeah.
So what will be your advice to the youngins coming up? Real quick.
Hey, well, I swear they for no. I'm gonna take you.
But 214, you are the grandpapa in Team Patrol 214 no pay.
And I think the way I broke it down, they will probably listen to what I just said because hey, I'm a easy pressure power you know. Listen, I want you to understand that you were once upon a time born who you was when they gave birth to you.
Yeah.
You wasn't famous. You was famous because you was a little cute child that your mother and father loved. That's it. Remember a time when no bien and you were living a simple life.
Right.
Then use that as a template to keep moving.
Okay.
Yes.
Grandpapa, we will definitely continue this conversation in good time. Unfortunately today, Emrene and Shada and Nosun, but extensively we'll go into this because this is very relevant. It's affecting everybody out there, even the celebs themselves and the normal human beings who are onlooking day in, day out. It's affecting all of us. So extensively, yeah, but continue this conversation.
And the drug fame has become so cheap.
Right.
They put that tag celebrity on anybody. That's a part of the drug dealer's deal.
Right. Grandpapa, we will definitely continue this conversation, but thank you so much for your time this morning. Reginald Yao Asante Osei, aka Reggie Rockstone. He's the godfather and originator of hip life in Ghana. He's been doing this from 1994 and he's still at it. And Dr. Isaac Newman Arthur, medical doctor and clinical psychologist. We appreciate your time so much this morning, as always. Thank you very much. So we've been talking the drug of fame. In good time, we will continue this conversation. But quickly, a few happy birthdays before I go. This one says, a glorious birthday to Kingsley Osei Kufuor all the way in Kumasi. For your special day, may God fill your life with a great time of happiness and bliss. God bless your new age. You are on Instagram. Yes, Sarkodie's Gatesman. That's your birthday today, Kingsley Osei Kufuor. And then also to Martha Akpene Eklo from Mavis and all Sunday school teachers of EP Church Ghana Northla, and I think I had a last one. Yes, exactly. This one says, happy blessed birthday to Esther Mensah, aka Jonas of Bantama Ebenezer Methodist, and it's from your children, Abana, Nana Kwame, Mami Ama, and Papa. We love you, Mami. So happy birthday to all of you. You are blessed and highly favored. This is still TV3 New Day. Bella is coming up with another conversation, and then later on, Miss G will join with some entertainment. Thank you for your time.